about ethical consideration. Defining ethics. Ethics are set of principles of conduct that govern the behavior of individual and or groups. Our ethics are usually based on our morals. So in the real world, the code of ethics to which we all comply is enforced by formal laws and by informal or unwritten norms. For example, road regulations and speed limits are a legal restrictions that are based on both our own safety and on the sense of morality in keeping those around us safe. Moreover, in the interest of keeping ourselves and those around us safe from the risk of COVID-19, some of us might opt to continue wearing masks where they are no longer a legal requirement. In the context of sociology, ethic guidelines inform researcher how to conduct research in a morally acceptable way. These rules are reinforced because deviance against moral norms is typically met with criticism, whether this is in the form of resentment from the people around us or through legal punishment such as fine. So, in the context of sociology, ethical guidelines inform researchers to accept the research and conduct the research the way it is morally accepted. Why is ethical consideration important in research? So, ethical consideration form a major element in research. The researcher needs to adhere to promote the aims of research, imparting authentic knowledge, truth, prevention of error. Furthermore, following ethics enables scholars to deal collaborative approach towards their study with the assistance of their peer mentors and other contributors to the studies. This requires value like accountability, trust, mutual respect, and fairness among all the parties involved in the study. This in turn depends on the protection of the intellectual property, which we nowadays in the corporate terms called as IP rights of all the contributors established through the implementation of ethical consideration. Other ethical consideration in research refers to accountability towards the general public by protecting the human or animal subject used in the study. Similarly, appropriate usage of public funds and gaining public support are also important. Let's look further deep into examples of ethical consideration. Before we go into the examples, let's just understand there are 5 common ethical issues in the workplace. First common ethical issues is unethical leadership. Having a personal issue with your boss is one thing, but reporting to a person who is behaving unethically is another. Toxic workplace culture, discrimination and harassment, unrealistic and conflicting goals, questionable use of company technology. So these are some ethical issues that we face during our work or at our workplace. Now let's just understand the examples. Promote authentic, original, and true knowledge by avoiding error. So, here, falsifying, fabricating, and misinterpretation of data, which can alter a real scenario, such as degree of economic development of a nation. To promote value of collaborative work, maintaining IP rights of fellow researchers, mentors, and other scholars. This can be achieved by bestowing proper credentials to on their contribution to the research, which we usually forget. If somebody is also helping us in the research or helping us to find the literature review while writing a research paper, that person has contributed towards the paper. There should be some credential given to that particular person that will promote the value of collaborative work. Public accountability, maintaining governmental and university policies on human subject protection and animal care. This will further guarantee the researcher's accountability towards the public. The researcher can gain public support for funding his or her study. Example, one genes or rare medicine, which otherwise require huge finances and time. Lastly, maintenance of quality and integrity along with moral and social values like social responsibility, human rights, legal compliance, animal welfare, public health and safety, etc. What the researcher can do? Researchers put lives at risk when they fabricate data in the study of medicine. Furthermore, if a researcher discloses information about their aids, subject without their discrete can lead to a mental and physical stress. One may ask, why are ethical guidelines used by researchers or seen as a critical requirement in research? So, the importance of ethical consideration in research cannot be undermined. Ethical guidelines for research are principles that protect morality and guide researchers when they conduct research. So they keep researchers accountable, thus ensuring proper use of funds and avoidance of research misconduct. Moreover, these ethical consideration in research guarantee that public can trust the research. Now that you understand the importance of ethical consideration in research and the need to follow ethical guidelines, let us just discuss some essential ethical consideration in research that every author must keep in mind when conducting their research. The first is integrity. Ethics in conducting research means you need to report your research results, findings, methodology, and data honestly. So, making up data, exaggerating findings, or misleading readers with unclear or contradictory explanation are considered unethical. Ethical guidelines for the research holds that even when the researchers are collaborating with peers, it is important to maintain sincerity and honesty. Next is objectivity. Ethical consideration in research requires that you carefully and critically examine your research work and avoid any obvious error and negligence. Additionally, following this ethical consideration in research also mean you should avoid biases in data interpretation, experimental method, result analysis, and peer reviewing. To add to that, it is unethical to discriminate against your collaborators, colleagues, students, reviewers, or mentors, or any factor that is not related to their scientific integrity. Next is openness. Being open to criticize a new ideas is necessary in ethical consideration when you do a research. Research is meant for the benefit of the society. Thus, you should share your ideas, result, and methodology for the advancement of the society or the science and be open to interpretation and views, and also be open to the criticism that you get from the audiences. Next and very important point is avoid plagiarism. One of the most basic ethical consideration is avoid plagiarism. You should avoid copy other researchers. I'm sure that everybody have heard of copyrights issue, IP issues, why this happens. So it's better to avoid plagiarism when you do research. Work and always acknowledge and recognize people who have contributed towards the research work. Moreover, another ethical consideration in research is steering clear of any plagiarism, privacy, and confidentiality. If your study involves people, ethical consideration in research methodology require you to make you respect human rights. For example, privacy of patients' personal information. The research study should maximize the benefits for both parties while minimizing any possible harm. Special care should be taken when working with vulnerable groups like children, people in disability, and also we cannot forget elderly people. Any sensitive information that is provided is confidence, including diagnostic results, grants information, patient records, school records, children's records, age group, etc. should be protected. Responsible publication. You should not publish anything that is fabricated, manipulated, falsified, or duplication of someone's work. Where a research paper is split into multiple papers having similar research question, hypothesis, methodology, results, and sample is also considered unethical. So a researcher following ethical guidelines should make an effort to avoid all these. Last, animal studies. When using animal in an experiment, you should always make sure that it is well advanced plan. You should take the right permission for such studies and ensure that adequate care is taken of the animals that you are using. following ethical guidelines are very important for ethical research. People often think, what is the value of ethical consideration in research? Why are ethical guidelines used by researchers? So basically, it is because adhering to ethical consideration in research ensures that your work is genuine and error-free at all, and also it earns the trust and support of the general public. Every researcher should abide by ethical guidelines in every aspects of their study, and these ethical consideration in research will further help guard against misconduct in academia or any other research part that you are doing. Unfortunately, some researchers are either unaware of these ethical norms or are negligent and ignore the importance of ethical research guidelines because of high competition in market, which can further hurt the researcher's reputation and also can hamper scientific advancement. It is therefore critical for every researcher to be aware of ethical consideration in research and carefully follow all the ethical guidelines laid down for the researchers. I hope this particular slide has been very clear. And further, when you do research, you have to follow all these guidelines.